The symbol I have chosen to speak about today is the Algae Island from Life of Pi. When Pi first noticed the island, he was in a state of disbelief. He called it a mental illusion. By the time he had made it to the island, he was amazed, and he thought he was saved. The island was full of slightly salty but delicious algae, and pools of fresh drinking water. By day, the island was a utopia. It provided food, water, and shelter. But by night, the island took all of that away. It became carnivorous. Pi learned this when he found the human tooth inside of the fruit from the tree. So he knew instantly that if he wanted to survive, he would have to leave the island. The Algae Island is a representation of fear. Just like the island had the capabilities to eat things up and destroy them, fear can do the same to us if we give it a chance. Throughout the novel, Pi is faced with many challenges and fears that he must conquer in order to survive. Some may not be a matter of survival, but no matter how small, a fear is a fear and it must be overcome. I walked in last, wearing my crown of thorns. The sound would disappear, but the hurt would linger. Pi was short for piscine, a name that the other school kids would then turn into pissing. And just like any other child would be, Pi feared going to school because of all of the bullying and the jokes and the negative comments that came his way. Even his teachers sometimes mispronounced his name and didn't realize. This being one of Pi's first fears that we encounter in the novel, there was a solution. On Pi's first day of secondary school, when the teacher did attendance, he got up and wrote his name on the board, Pi Patel, and he even wrote the mathematical meaning behind his name, Pi 3.14. to get it to really stick. In doing this, he shows us that he was very tired of all the jokes and bullying, and he wanted it to stop. Yes, Father, tigers are dangerous. To an 8-year-old child, watching a tiger devour a small goat is probably petrifying, and most likely going to scar the child. When Pi was 8, he witnessed this event up front and center. He learned that animals are dangerous. This is what helps to build Pi's fear of Richard Parker later on in the novel. We didn't want to go. Pi didn't want to move to Canada. After all, who would want to leave their home? But normally not wanting to move is powered by the fear of the unknown. You know nothing of where you're going, or where you might end up, or what it'll be like. But this kind of fear is common. It's okay to be afraid of what you don't know. You just have to experience the unknown, see what it is, and maybe realize that it's not that bad. He was less than 10 feet away. We know that Pi is afraid of Richard Parker, but he realizes Richard Parker gives him a reason to survive, something to look after, something to be aware of. So he finds a way to tame him, keep him under control. In doing so, he also controls his own fear, because now Pi knows that he's in charge, and even Richard Parker recognizes that as well. Even if they may not be, many people are afraid of ending up alone. But Pi really is alone. He's in the middle of an ocean by himself, and he's lost anybody that he's ever loved. And he lets us know that earlier in the novel when he says to us, I was alone and orphaned, in the middle of the Pacific, hanging onto an oar, an adult tiger in front of me, sharks beneath me, a storm raging about me. He is surrounded by all of the things that he is afraid of, but he doesn't want to die. The fear of death is the most prominent in this novel. However, the fear of death also serves as a motivator. Pi does not want to die, so he will do everything that he can to survive, even if it means becoming a different person than who he was before. When Pi reaches the island, he thinks he's saved, but after seeing the truth behind the island, he chooses to leave, to save his life, rather than to stay in paradise and one day end up like the owner of the tooth that he found. Fear saved him. I preferred to set off and perish in search of my own kind than to live a lonely half-life of physical comfort and spiritual death on this murderous island. The Algae Island is a representation of fear and how it can consume us when we're doing well and all is good. Fear is unexpected, and we must find ways to overcome it. Fear always begins in the mind. We scare ourselves by overthinking, and then the fear eats us up. Fear is everywhere in our world. It's almost impossible to not be afraid of anything. Big or small, there's always something that makes the hairs on our arms stand up. For example, if I was standing in front of you right now, I'd probably be a little nauseous and my knees would most likely be weak. And I know that it's not just me who would be feeling that way. The fear of public speaking is known as glossophobia, and that is one of the many phobias out there in our world today. Some other examples of phobias would be cynophobia, the fear of dogs. How could this adorable little face scare you away? Or trypophobia, the fear of holes. This one, I think I might have, because looking at this picture makes me very uncomfortable, but besides the point. A fear is a fear, and we should never judge a person for what they're afraid of, or judge their fear for that matter. It affects a person, no matter how small or how irrelevant we may think the fear is, to them it's pretty big. Considering the society that we live in today, it's safe to say that majority of people fear for their lives. And as sad as it sounds, it's almost normal now to hear of a terrorist attack, or of a mass shooting, or of somebody getting stabbed on a street corner. To us, these events would be completely unknown. We wouldn't know why, when, where, what, how. We know nothing. So even if you're not thinking of it all the time, you've probably thought of it once or twice. What would I do if I was in one of these situations? And under these circumstances, it's only expected that the family of whomever is left home would worry for them, where they are, how they're doing, and when they're coming back. And if we allow that type of fear to consume us and we always worry, we could sit there for hours and just wonder, and that does no good for anyone. Pi could have easily chosen to sit in the corner of his boat and let his fears consume him. Had he had done that, his journey would have been over way sooner. But instead, he chose to conquer his fears and to use his fears as a motivator, and that's what led him to survive. Overall, fear is everywhere, and we may not be able to abolish it, but we can try to weaken the impact that it has on us. Fear shouldn't hold us back. It should motivate us, build us, make us better. After all, that's what it did to Pi anyways, right? I must say a word about fear. It is life's only true opponent. Only fear can defeat life. It goes for your weakest spot, which it finds with unerring ease. It begins in your mind. Always. I chose an Adobe Spark Page video because majority of people are visual and auditory learners. Majority of people also enjoy watching something rather than just sitting and listening. Also, giving a visual helps them to focus more than to just listen and zone out.